Go for it. Hi, my name is Nick Cosgrove. Welcome to Let's Talk. I'm here today with my good friend, client, and fellow group instructor, Lauren Kilian. Lauren, how are you doing today?
All things considered, pretty good.
Yeah. Well, let's start off by telling everyone who you are and what you do for a living.
My name is Lauren, and I am a group fitness instructor, and I've been with Steve Nash primarily, as well as Equinox. I've trained there before as well. Been teaching for about 15 years. I was a personal trainer at one point in time, but moved into group fitness after that, which has been my passion for the last 15 years.
What made you decide to get involved in the fitness industry?
Actually, I was working in Club Med in Mexico when I was 20, and they threw me in as a fitness instructor. I went down as a lifeguard, and the fitness instructor got pneumonia, and I got a call at 7 o'clock in the morning that I was going to teach the fitness class that day. And I jumped in and loved it. And I actually came home early. I broke my contract after 5 months, came home early, and was so excited about getting into the fitness industry. Started working at Langley Fitness World when I was 21, which is also where I met my husband, and did everything there, like front desk, sales, personal training, taught some classes, and it's kind of grown since then. Yeah, I loved it.
Wow. So you actually pretty much have done almost every single role in the fitness industry. From,
Yes.
like you said, from front desk, from group instruction, from private training to partner training, you've done it all.
And even managing. I was the original group fitness director when the Steve Nash Sports Club opened back in 2007, I believe it was, the Granville Street location. And then I opened the Richmond and Morgan Crossing clubs.
Okay.
And that was right before they merged with Fitness World. So I was the group fitness director before they merged with Fitness World.
Okay, and for those people that don't know, Fitness Road is a franchise gym located in Vancouver, British Columbia, and I believe they have 24 locations, if I'm correct. Is that right?
You know what? I don't even know.
Yeah, they've grown substantially over the years. But we'll get more into that later on because I know there's some information with that particular franchise I'd like to talk to you about. But I want to get back to you for a second. You've also competed in fitness competitions in the past.
I've done 2 Ironman distance triathlons and 2 figure competitions.
What made you get into Ironman?
Well, actually, my husband did one, and I thought he was crazy. I went and watched, and I just thought, this is ridiculous. And then I watched. Just hang on a minute, Kobe. You got to give me 5 minutes, okay?
Lauren's got 3 kids, so she's got to kind of multitask here.
One was approaching in her underwear, so so I watched him do it, and I just thought, you know what, if he can do it, so can I. So then we did 2 together. So we did the last year of the Penticton Ironman here in BC, and then the first year of the Whistler Ironman.
Yeah.
And that was crazy. The first one I did after a pretty serious cycling accident. 5 weeks later, I finished the Ironman. So. Wow. That was an interesting experience. And then after that, I just decided I've always wanted to do a figure competition. And I knew we were, getting closer to having kids. So I thought it's now or never. And that's when I met you.
Right.
And I started training for that. And coming off of training for an Ironman, training for a fitness competition was almost like a break because it was only 2 workouts a day versus, 3, sometimes one of them being like a 6-hour bike ride.
Wow.
But the challenging part with the competition was the restriction on your diet. And that was the challenging part for me, for sure.
Well, let's go back for a second with the Ironman. What type of training do you do for an I myself have never done an Ironman. So what type of training is involved to get ready for an Ironman?
It's pretty intense. It starts gradually, and we hired a coach because we wanted to do it correctly, and we needed a plan. So, it's kind of, they gradually build your endurance. The bike rides, I would say, were the toughest for me because they were the most time consuming. So, every day you would have something, either a swim, or a bike ride. Sometimes were indoor trainer rides. Sometimes it was a bike ride with a run off the bike. So they'd be combination exercises, and the volume just kind of gradually builds until you kind of get to about 60 to 70% of the distance in your training, and then you taper. But yeah, the training is insane. It's insane. It's a full-time job.
Well, you must be burning, I mean, thousands of calories easily within like one whole day of training. So what kind of calories are you consuming then to make up for that?
I mean, I felt like we did nothing but eat.
Is that right? Eh?
Eat, work, train, sleep. That's all we did.
And I mean, I know because I work with people for fitness competitions, but what type of dieting do you do for an Ironman? Like what kind of foods are you eating?
Well, you know what? We eat really healthy. Like we've always just been healthy eaters. So it's just volume. It's just pure volume of food and like lots of healthy carbs.
Right,
So
right.
you know, healthy pastas, healthy sweet potatoes, that sort of thing.
Right. And if you are following a clean diet, get all those calories in, that's a lot of volume for food. I mean, if you're not eating junk food, that's a lot of food that you have to consume to get those clean
Yeah.
calories in. So then
It's not a cheap sport. Let's just say that.
no, I've
Between
heard that. Yeah.
the coaching and all the food, and the events themselves are expensive, like the traveling costs and everything else.
Right. And then, so you did 2 of those, and I think that's when you and I first started.
Hold on one second.
Yeah. No problem. See, this is what happens when you've got 3 kids.
Trevor?
No time.
Sorry.
Don't be at all. It's fine. So I think that's when I met you after your second Ironman, and I think that's, I want to say 2013. Is that right? Around that time?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And you and I, we prepped for your first fitness competition, and you were competing in figure.
Yeah.
So that was a completely different type of ball game now. Different type of training, different type of dieting. How did you feel about prepping for your first show? What did you find the biggest challenge to be?
So the first show, I mean, I enjoyed every minute of it because I think partly because I saw a lot of change for the first competition, being more dialed in with my weight training, which I love weight training. It's always been a huge part of my life. And so coming off of Ironman when I wasn't doing a lot of weight training and getting back into it, and then also seeing my body start to change, that was really exciting. And just being committed to something, having a plan, having a program, getting up in the morning and looking at what my workouts were going to be and what I was eating and all the preparation, it just, you know, it made me more disciplined in every area of my life. I started to notice that I was more disciplined at work. I was more disciplined with cleaning the house, everything. It was just everything kind of getting dialed in when you have a focus and an end goal. It was just all coming together. So that was great.
And I have to say, from working with you for these shows, for both shows, you're one of my very few clients that never cheated on your diet. You're very strict with the diet.
Trevor would argue with you. He likes to say that I did cheat, but you know.
Well, I have had some people though that have just like, I mean, they can't stay on track. Never mind for a week; they can't even stay on track for a day.
Right.
I mean, you were pretty committed to the plan. So
I think the first one I did, I would say that I was like 90% on track.
Okay. Yeah.
The second one, I think maybe I did them too close together, but there was definitely a shift, and maybe it was that I didn't see as much change for the second one.
Okay.
And so that became a little bit frustrating for me, which I'm sure is all part of the process, and that's why people start doing them kind of year after year, because you really learn what works for you and what doesn't. And
sure.
I got a little too frustrated, I think, with the second one, not seeing as much change as I did with the first one. Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of a learning experience for me, for sure.
After doing 2 shows, would you ever consider stepping back on stage?
I've thought about it. I would definitely have to do it in a way that my family didn't notice me restricting my food, because as a mom with 3 kids, one of them being a daughter, I have to be very careful about setting a good example with the way I eat and not being too focused on appearance as well.
Right.
But I do love it. I mean, I love the discipline. I love, I love everything about it, other than it maybe being a little bit more appearance based. So yeah, but it's not something that I wouldn't do. Maybe when my kids are older and I don't have to worry about that as much.
Well, that was actually going to lead me to my next point, is that when you and I prepped for these shows, you didn't have any kids yet. Mm-hmm. Fast forward now 6 years, almost 7 years later, and now you've got 3 kids, all under the age of 5 years old.
Yeah.
And yet you still manage to get in your workouts and you still manage to stay in incredible shape. So I have a question. How do you do that?
Well, I think one of the main things for me was I stayed really active through all my pregnancies. So I taught group fitness up until 38 weeks with every pregnancy. And then after that, I walked because all of my pregnancies went to 43 weeks. So
Right.
they were long pregnancies, but I kept very active.
Yeah.
And one of the things I think I came to realize after having kids was that I may have been overtraining for a lot of years. So right now I feel like my life has never been more balanced.
Right.
And my workouts are balanced, my eating is really balanced, and it just worked. My body is responding to it, and I think that half the battle is just finding your kind of sweet spot with your body and what works for you. And after having kids, I thought, oh, okay, I've had my fun, and I was in the best shape of my life, and it's going to be downhill from here. And it was been kind of the opposite experience. So exercise for me and for my husband too, it's non-negotiable. Like, it's a huge part of our life. It's all, even right now when life is stressful and the gyms aren't open and the weather's not great, we're still making it a huge priority.
Okay.
And so that for me, I think, is one of the things that has kept me in shape in every part of my life right now, like through my pregnancies, afterwards, and stressful times. It's a main priority. Yeah, we make sure it happens one way or another.
In your opinion, because I know as a group instructor, you've worked with a lot of pregnant women, pre and postnatal women. Do you think a lot of women use their pregnancy as an excuse to kind of eat whatever they like and maybe not exercise as much?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't want to say excuse because I don't know what they're going through in their own life.
Okay.
But I think that if it was hard for you to work out before you were pregnant and it felt like work, then once your body starts changing and your hormones start changing, it could be a real challenge to stay on track with it. So yeah, I mean, I hate to use the word excuse because everybody's, maybe for some, but then for others, just, it doesn't feel great. So
Yeah.
I always, and some people are scared, for a lot of women, it takes them a lot of work to get pregnant, and then they're just not sure how to maintain exercise and be safe while being pregnant. So they kind of err on the side of not doing anything. And I think with the right tools and the right education and the right people in their life, they can exercise safely, have it feel good, and have it add to their pregnancy as opposed to take it away.
Were you yourself ever concerned or worried about exercising with weights during any of your pregnancies?
I wouldn't say concerned. I'm really in tune with my body. So I was teaching some classes that involved a lot of jumping. And I would say about halfway through my second trimester, I was like, this isn't feeling right anymore. So I'm going to stop.
Right.
And I have friends that taught those classes through their whole pregnancies. I have friends that did hot yoga in their pregnancies and it worked well for them. But for me, I went to one class in my first pregnancy and it wasn't hot yoga, but it was in a slightly heated room, and I didn't like the way that felt for me. Some people run during their pregnancies and that didn't work for me. So I lifted weights. I taught cycling, worked really well for me, spin classes, and basic weight training with some modifications. So you can find what works for you.
I like to use you as an example to a lot of my clients because throughout all 3 pregnancies, I remember there were times that you were actually training in some of my group classes, and we were doing heavy leg days, and you were training up to about, I think maybe 2-3 weeks out from your pregnancies.
Yeah.
You were still staying active and fit, and you weren't letting me really take the weight down. You were still pushing it pretty hard. And like you said, there were a few modifications that had to be made, but for the most part, I mean, you were following the routine right through.
Yeah, and I actually think maintaining lean muscle throughout my pregnancy is part of the reason I was able to bounce back fairly quickly. Was that lean muscle just kept me in better shape, and kept me strong, kept my back healthy. it takes a toll on your body. You got a lot of extra weight out front. You have no core. Your core is completely gone when you're pregnant or when you're in your last trimester. So I think having a strong body really helped me a lot and protected myself throughout my pregnancies for sure.
Right. Now, with the whole issue with COVID-19, you mentioned that you and Trevor, your husband Trevor, who's also a client of mine, you guys have been staying fairly active and fit. What type of workouts have you guys been able to do with all the gyms being closed?
Well, I laugh. This is kind of a joke between us because after I had my last baby, I bought a set of weights so that I could work out at home if I didn't have time to go to the gym. And I bought 10s, 15s, 20s, and 30s.
Okay.
And they were great. And when we moved out here, he was cursing me because he says, who buys 30-pound weights? And he's lugging them up the stairs and we're trying to find a place for them.
Right.
And when this happened, he's like, I sure am glad you bought those 30-pound weights.
Yeah, no kidding. I was joking about this with a client last night is dumbbells are more valuable than gold right now.
Yeah.
I have people contacting me, asking me, hey, do you have any hookups for dumbbells, for, kettlebells, for barbells? And I'm like, it's like a black market for these things right now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, so I guess it's because a lot of the fitness stores, like in Vancouver, we have Fitness Depot, and I think it was another one, Fitness Town, and apparently they're sold out.
Yeah.
And it's a good 8-week wait on Amazon to get something in there. So
yeah. Well, so this morning before this call, we have a couple different spaces that we can do a workout in, and I just write out a workout like some of my group classes, set the timer, and kind of like with you, we do 40 seconds on and then a rest, and then we do like a circuit workout. And on other days when the weather's a little better, we've been going for some short runs and getting creative, just keeping moving. And I think Trevor's going to set his bike up on the trainer, and we've been going for walks with our kids and pushing the stroller and that sort of thing. So you got to do, like I said, it's a huge priority for us. So it's you find the way.
And I just want to mention, you guys are doing this with 3 kids, all under the age of 5 years old.
Yeah. Exactly.
So for those people that say I don't have the time, right here, right?
Yeah.
Another thing I want to talk.
All kids actually work well as weights.
Yeah.
Kobe's 45 pounds, Justice is 33, and Kai is about 25 now. So they make you can hold them and squat.
Yeah. They don't squirm too much.
Well, a little bit, but.
I tried doing that with Robin, but she moves around way too much. So anyway. No. One thing I want to talk to you about now, I want to lead into now. For those that don't know, Steve Nash Fitness Worlds, that is a gym franchise here in Vancouver, British Columbia. Lauren, you've worked there from 2008, was it?
Well, yeah, I started with Steve Nash. I think it was 2007 we opened. So I started with them as their group fitness director, kind of even before the clubs opened.
Right.
So I was there on their opening team, and that's when they were like this new company coming in, and they were very different than anything we'd seen here before.
Okay. So you've been with that company since day one.
Say it again.
We froze there. You've been with that company pretty much since day one.
Yeah. So
recently with COVID-19, that franchise has closed their doors, and I believe this week they filed for bankruptcy. Can you hear me okay? But one of the things I've noticed, and you might know more about this than me, is that I've seen in the media right now, there's been a lot of wrongful terminal accusations of people being let go. Wrongful termination. So my question to you is, do you know anything as to what's going on right now with the Steve Nash franchise and their employees?
You know what? I don't have any more information than what the public has. It kind of started with when all the other gyms were closing. Steve Nash was still kind of trying to stay open, and so which I thought was a bit strange when everybody else was closing. And it was even a day where I had a class that I was supposed to go and teach, and I texted the manager saying, I'm like, am I supposed to be going to teach this? Like, why is it that all these other clubs are closing? And she said, you can do what you're comfortable with. And so I just said, well, I mean, I think I'm not going to go, because I just feel like it's kind of going against what everybody else is doing. And this is when this was still all in the early stages, and everything was kind of gray. Like there wasn't a a clear indication on what was going on.
Right.
So a couple of days later, I'm not sure whether it was from social pressure or what, but they decided, okay, we're going to close. And so everybody was kind of happy because now I didn't have to make the decision as to whether I was going to not go to my class. The company was. So I was happy to see them get on board with what everybody else was doing. And then I didn't have to make that decision.
Right.
And so, another week went by and all of a sudden we got this email saying that we'd been terminated, which was a huge surprise to everybody, especially because we were confused as to why they were using the word terminate instead of lay off. Like, as a small business owner, we had to lay off our employees because we don't have work for them right now, but we're not terminating them. We fully expect to rehire them when we reopen. And
it's a temporary layoff.
Exactly. So there was a lot of confusion, and we have some private groups with like the employees of Nash. We have some private groups. So everybody was going on saying, what's this about? We're all confused. And even the managers didn't have any extra information for us. So I think there were some people that were really upset. I primarily teach at Steve Nash as a passion, a hobby. I love the people I work with, and I love the members. So that's what my stance is on it.
Yes.
But there are a lot of people that teach full time. Like they teach primarily at Nash, and they teach 15 to 30 classes a week there.
Right.
And this is their main income. And so those were the people that were feeling really upset. And then we see these headlines in the news saying they were filing for bankruptcy. And I have friends that are managers within the company, and they don't even know what is going on. So it's been a big mystery. It's really disappointing. I was excited to go back and teach there when this was all done, and so it's disappointing. And we did get an email saying that we're invited to reapply when they reopen. Mm-hmm. So, but it's all very kind of elusive. There's, it's not, I don't feel like they're being completely open with what's really going on. So everybody's got a lot of questions.
Sure.
And so we'll see. It's kind of a mystery. We'll see how it unfolds over the next few weeks.
Well, it's interesting. I have a few clients that actually do belong to the Steve Nash facilities, and they all received, there are members there, and they all received an email telling them that the staff would be compensated fairly, that everyone was going to get severance pay and they'd be brought back on. And like you, I have a few clients who, not clients, but friends who are also trainers that work at Steve Nash, and they received a completely different email saying the complete opposite.
Right.
And so it's kind of interesting how a lot of members think that the staff are being treated fairly, and then you hear from the staff that's not the case.
Yeah.
And the petition that you're talking about, tell me about that, because I saw it on Facebook.
Yeah. So I mean, I primarily signed it and shared it, not really for myself, but for the people that I know rely on it as their full-time job. Sure. Because I have friends like I said are managers within this company, and I certainly hope they're being compensated correctly. A lot of them have families to support or themselves to support, and I think that they should be treated fairly. And if the company is taking advantage of a global crisis to find a loophole to not treat their employees fairly, then that needs to be brought into the public's attention and dealt with, because otherwise other companies will take advantage of that and start doing the same thing.
I agree.
And so I want to support those people and help them.
And, we're not sitting here bashing Steve Nash or anything, but I think it's important that this message is addressed, because I know I have, like I said, a lot of my clients are under the impression that the staff are being treated fairly and everyone is on temporary layoff, or they're getting somewhat of a pay. And I've had a few trainers message me and say, hey, look, I only got paid for maybe my final day of work, and that was it. Mm-hmm. And now I'm not getting anything. So it's like you said, a lot of it is still up in the air and it's a mystery, but I'd like to see what happens, what comes out of this. And, the petition that you signed, I'm actually going to put that in the description of this thing so other people can look at it and sign it if they like to as well. Mm-hmm. Because I think it's important that everyone, especially right now with what's going on with COVID-19, everyone gets treated equally, fairly, and compensated correctly.
I agree. Yeah.
One final thing, I know you have to go because I know you got 3 kids, but and you probably have a million things to do today. I just wanted just some insight as to how COVID-19 has affected you guys on a business scale and personal scale.
Yeah. It's been a really hard time. So it's, my husband's a chiropractor. As you know, we have 2 locations. And so our downtown location is completely closed. So
Okay.
we had just hired 2 new staff. We have one staff who is also a client of yours, Megan. And then we had just hired 2 new staff that we were excited about. We had to lay them off immediately. And then, as things have kind of unfolded, we decided to close our downtown office. We had to lay off our other staff, Megan. So that's sad for us. Just, that's been a big part of our life for 13 years. And
Sure.
we miss going there, and we miss seeing all of our clients and serving them. And our Aldergrove location, we are seeing a very specific group of people. So acute and emergency care, which is not a lot of people, but we are at least grateful that we can be available for them,
Sure.
following the proper procedures and cleanliness and safety measures. Our kids are loving it because they get way more time with Bubba, as they call my husband Bubba. But they also can sense that there's something weird going on, because they asked to go to the parks and they're not allowed, and they asked to go over to their friends' houses and they're not allowed. And
right.
So that, it's hard. It's hard on the kids. It's hard on us. And
how do you explain that to a 4-year-old? I mean, that they can't go to their friend's house or to the park.
Yeah. So she's very aware of this virus. So she talks about the virus.
Okay.
And, as people in the natural healthcare industry, we're very careful with creating fear around that sort of thing. So we have explained it to her a little bit, and the other 2 are so young that they don't really know what's going on.
Right. Yes.
That's fine. But she's very observant, so we're trying to be positive and careful about answering her questions, but not creating fear.
Right.
And then not being fearful ourselves, like not playing into the fear, being smart, being safe, but not being fearful.
Right. Well, it sounds like you guys are doing a great job.
Yeah, thank you.
I want to thank you so much for coming on today. I actually have a lot of things I'd like to talk about with you, but we only have half an hour. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I would love to have you back on sometime in the near future, because I'd like to do a little bit of a debate on some fitness fads that are going on in the industry these days.
I'd love to.
I think you would be the perfect person to have on for this.
Awesome. Thank you.
Lauren, thank you so much for coming on. And,
thanks, Nick.
You have a great weekend. And I'm hoping to see you back at the gym when this is all over.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yes. We don't have a timeline yet, but hopefully sooner than later.
Right on. Thanks, Nick.
Okay.
Have a great day.
Thanks so much. You too. Okay. Tell Trevor I say hi.
I will. Bye.
Bye.